started. Om Agyantimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnupadaya Radhikayai Priyatmane Shri Srimad Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Niti Namine Shri Krishna Leela Kathane Sudaksham Adarya Madhurya Gunai Shayuktam Varam Varenyam Purusham Mahantam Shri Narayanam Tvam Shirsa Namami Tridandinam Bhakta Shiro Manim Cha Shri Krishna Padabja Dhritaye Khridi Chaitanya Leelamrita Sara Saram Narayanam Tvam Satatam Prapadye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanyaya Namne Gaur Tvishe Namaha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Shama Sundar Shikhanda Shekhar Smeraha Samurli Manohar Radhika Rasik Mam Kripa Nidhe Swapriya Charan Kinkarim Kuru तप्त कांचन गौरांगी श्री राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये तवैवास्मि न जीवामि त्वया विना इति विज्ञाय राधे तन्नय माम चरणन्तिके भक्त्या विहीनापराधलक्षै क्षिप्ताश्च कामादितरङ्गमध्यै कृपामयि त्वं शरणं प्रपन्ना वृन्दे नमस्ते चरणारविन्दम् जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. So first of all, I offer my unlimited obeisances unto the divine lotus feet of my most worshipful spiritual master, His Divine Grace, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. My unlimited obeisances unto the divine lotus feet of Sachidan Thakur, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and to our Rupanuga Guru Varga, as well as my respects to all the devotees who are assembled here. So thanks everyone again for joining. We are now on the third chapter of Jaiva Dharma. And last time we had discussed that how Sannyasi Mahashraya in the night time, he saw a beautiful vision of Sridham Mayapur. He saw that so many transcendental personalities, Lord Shiva, Naradji, all of them, and so many other demigods, they were all in ecstasy chanting the holy name. And Lord Brahma was describing that how Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is a merciful incarnation who appears in this world. So like this, he saw a very beautiful transcendental vision by the mercy of his spiritual master. And then he firmly decided that now I'm going to take shelter in this Guru Parampara. I am going to strictly follow Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's philosophy. So next day he went to the Ganges, and then after that he took the Kanthi Mala. He put the Vaishnav Tilak on his forehead, And when all the other residents of Godrum, seeing him in this Vaishnav dress, started paying respects to him, he felt very humbled, and he said that this is an obstacle because I want to become a servant of the Vaishnavas and not instead expect respect from others. So like this, we saw that how then he met his Gurudev, and Premdas Babaji then gave him the name Vaishnav Das. And now he became officially the disciple of Premhans Das Babaji. So from this point onwards, he's referred as Vaishnav Das in Jaiva Dharma. So that day in the afternoon, many Vaishnavas came to the place, to the Pradyumna Kunj of Premhans Das Babaji, and they also were glorified Vaishnav Das, that he had now completely taken the Vaishnav, embraced the Vaishnavism. And so he basically at that time, he again offered his obeisances to all of them. And they said that these are three things that only by Bhakta Pad Dhuli, Bhakta Pad Jal, Bhakta Bhukta Avashesh, Teen Mahabal. That there are three things that we need for making progress in spiritual life: the dust of the lotus feet of Vaishnavas, the water that has bathed the feet of the Vaishnavas, and then their remnants of the food that they have taken, and the Harikatha that is coming from their lotus lips. So like this, there was a beautiful exchange between all the Vaishnavas there and Vaishnav Das. In that assembly, and from this we continue, so in that assembly that day, there was another person. And this person was someone who had quite a bit influence in the society, and he had made good connections with the rich and the elite, especially in the rulers of that time. So this is a time when Bengal and most of India was ruled by Muslim rulers. So he had made some good connections there. And but even after all of this, after accumulating a lot of wealth, after accumulating a lot of trees, he was still not very satisfied. He felt something missing within himself. So see, this is the paradox of our mundane life, that we work so hard to attain material wealth in expectation that we will become happy, right? We will become satisfied. But the nature of material wealth is such that it never satisfies us. Instead, it creates a greater hollowness within us. As people actually become more wealthy, many times they become more fearful, because now they are fearful of losing everything that they have. When they have a certain position, especially like you see, whether it's in politics or in a corporate world, when people reach a certain level, then they are very scared of losing that. So instead of becoming happy and satisfied, generally we see that people become more dissatisfied and more stressed out. So he was feeling similarly. And now, since he had from some background, and when he was child, he had learned music. So he developed some attraction for chanting the holy name, specifically for Sankirtan. So here it says that because of the training that he had received in Indian music, and he got this from some great masters of that time, he had become strong enough to put himself forward as the lead singer during performance of Harinam Sankirtan. So he was a good singer. He could play the instruments very well. So he was many times given the lead position when Harinam Sankirtan was held. But see, this was not in the assembly of real Vaishnavas. So, even today when you go to Bengal, and there are many, many such groups who perform kirtan, and they are very melodious sound with nice accompanying instruments. But this is not what real kirtan is. So here it says the Vaishnavas did not like his polished classical style of singing. So why is that? When he's singing, why was it that Vaishnavas did not like his polished style? Why? Because he was singing not so much out of attraction of the holy name or to glorify the Supreme Lord. He was singing more to make himself a known singer of Sankirtan, a known Kirtaniya. So that's why it says that he would show off some of his musical artistry during Sankirtan and then look expectantly at others' face for recognition. So many times we see people are, playing harmonium, and as they make different gestures, they look at different people. So it is more of a performance than kirtan. Many times we also as audience, or those of others who are participating in Sankirtan, it's especially till we don't get the taste of the holy name many times. And this is because of the condition stage. Many times we are more attracted to the melody, to the music, and how well that singer is singing, right? Not necessarily to the sweetness of the holy name. So Gurudev would explain that this is that two things. One is called Vastu Vaishishtya Anapekshaniya Bhav, and one is called Vastu Vaishishtya Apekshaniya Bhav. So Vastu means object. Vaishishtya means the speciality of that thing. So object, take anything. So whether in this case it is the chanting of the holy name, or Vastu, let's say the deities of the Lord. So you go to the temple, and the deities are dressed very beautifully and very ornate dress, nice heavy jewelry, beautiful garland, with the cloths going in different ways. The turban of Krishna is made, and you go and see, wow, Thakurji is looking so beautiful, and you get some emotions in your heart. Now another day that you go, he's wearing just a very simple dress. There's a very simple garland, or maybe no garland, very simple jewelry. There's not really any turban. There's no really nice paint on his face. And then you say, oh, today it is not very, attractive. Why? Because we're seeing more of his dress than we are seeing Krishna, right? And again, this is our natural, that's how our minds work till we get to really start relishing the deity or the holy name, the sweetness of the Lord himself. So this is called Vastu Vaishishtya Apekshaniya Bhav, when there is apeksha or some expectation of that particular thing is very beautiful, or it is very melodious, like when the kirtan is going on. But anapekshaniya bhav means when there is no such expectation, because we are actually relishing the holy name itself. There was one very great disciple of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada. His name was Akinchan Krishna Das Babaji. And he was always chanting the holy name in such deep mood, with such depth. And if you hear, you can actually hear, there are some of those recordings even on YouTube you can find, that sometimes there's not even any accompanying of course there's no harmonium, because in traditional Vaishnav kirtans there was generally never harmonium. But sometimes there's not even a mridanga or even kartal. He's just chanting, he's just singing the Vaishnav bhajans, and it is so attractive because it is coming from his heart. But sometimes we may not find it very attractive because there's no accompanying music. So in this case, so the point here to understand is that we should focus on the holy name, And the person who's singing, if it's an advanced devotee, there may not be accompanying musical instruments, but it is the name which is more powerful. It is the importance of the name, not the accompanying instruments. But this person, he was making all these musical rags and musical melodies, and then of course he was also expecting that people will appreciate him. But even though the Vaishnavas did not really like his polished style of singing, still Vaishnavas are generally very merciful. They're always encouraging everyone. And because this person was not offensive, he actually, over a period of time, started developing some taste for the holy name. So he said he began to experience some pleasure in Sankirtan. So there was some attachment now that he was getting to the holy name. So this day he also came to Godrum because there was a Kirtan program and in Navadvip, and all the Vaishnavas had congregated. And he was also staying there at someone's place. On this day, he actually came with those Vaishnavas to the place of Prem Hans Das Babaji. And after he saw this exchange of humility and exchange of such humble and uh, graciousness between Vaishnav Das ji and all the other Vaishnavas, some doubt or some questions came in his mind. And then he put forward that question to all the Vaishnavas that were congregated there. So, what was that question? He said that the Manusmriti and other Dharam Shastras state that the Brahman caste is the highest caste. According to these scriptures, the religious rites such as chanting Brahm Gayatri and other Vedic mantras at dawn, noon, and sunset are considered to be Nitya Karma, or the eternal duties for the Brahmins. If these activities are obligatory, why is Vaishnav behavior opposed to them? So his question, as you know, you've all just heard, his question was that it seems that Vaishnav's practices are not aligned with what these scriptures like Manu Smriti state, where it seems that they say that it's only the Brahmins, and he's thinking of Brahmins who are Brahmins by birth, that only the Brahmins should be doing the Gayatri mantra, and that also up 3 times a day, like we all actually also do. So 3 Sandhya. But there is no such, a description of chanting on the japa beads, and that those who are not born in Brahman families getting Gayatri mantras. So he says that the behavior and the practices of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas seem very opposed to what the scriptures say. Now, our practices are not opposed to them. It is a misunderstanding of the people who don't understand the real essence of the scriptures. And this is why when even Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Shri Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada, when they started preaching and slowly started establishing the principles of Gaudiya Vaishnavism, there was a lot of opposition. As you may have heard, that during the time of Shri Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada, there was so much opposition because he was giving Brahman initiation to anyone who was chanting the holy name, following all the 4 regulative principles, and had taken a vow of following the principles of Gaudiya Vaishnavism. He would give them initiation. He would also initiate them in the Gayatri Mantra. So there was a lot of opposition by the caste Brahmins. So during one of the Navadvip Parikramas, they all colluded to actually murder him. The news came, and our Param Gurudev Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj, who was at that time Vinod Bihari Brahmachari, he came to Srila Prabhupada and he said, Gurudev, that there is a big mob that is coming, and this is what their intention is. So you please give me your dress. So actually, if you look at the picture of Param Gurudev, Keshav Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj, and the picture of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, there is some similarity. They are very tall both, and very effulgent, some similar facial features also. It appears, looks like that. So he said, please give me your sannyasi clothes, and then you take my clothes and you go from the back. Initially, Prabhupada said, no, I don't want to put you in danger. He said, no, your life is more important than mine. You are creating a revolution. There are hundreds and thousands of people who are coming to take shelter of you. And I'm just one of your thousands of disciples. If I can give up my life for your mission, that will be the success of my life. So this is how, how dedicated he was, Param Gurudev. So he took that sannyas dress of Param Gurudev, and then Prabhupada left. And as that Param Gurudev was finally able to, he was a very, very powerful speaker also, and a very strong person. So he actually was able to pacify those mobs, and with his erudition, and he was able to explain to them, and things kind of then slowly died down. But there was a lot of opposition, and even till very recently, we see these kind of things happening. So it's a very important question that he's asking. So then those who were there, all the Vaishnavas, here Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that they have no taste for argument and debate. Generally, devotees don't like to get into arguments, because na tarken na medhaya. We cannot understand the absolute truth via arguments. Yes, it is good to question, and we should question, but the question should be pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya, should be in the mood of humility. But if someone argues, generally the Vaishnavas would avoid. They may initially try to explain, but if the person is only arguing for the sake of arguing, then they typically would prefer not to engage in such discussions. But in this case, they saw that this particular person had some interest, some attraction for the holy name. So therefore they said that we will be most happy if Paramhans Babaji Maharaj answers your question. So Babaji Maharaj, when he heard this, he said that, O great souls, if you so desire, the respected Bhakta Sri Vaishnav Das will answer this question in full. So he wants Vaishnav Das, who had now, that morning only, he had given him that name, to answer this question. See, many times the spiritual masters will do that. Gurudev will routinely ask his disciples during the programs to stand up and speak something. So this is, Gurudev will do, all our acharyas have done, for two reasons. One, they are preparing the next generation to be able to speak, to be able to present the philosophy very clearly. And they are also seeing that if they are able to present it clearly, right? So one is to encourage that they are able to speak, and then also to make sure that no mistakes are being made. When Gurudev would make others stand, he was so intently listening to what they were saying. And it was amazing that if anyone made even the slightest mistake, Gurudev will very nicely, and sometimes, of course, he would also he will also scold them, and he would correct them, because this is what Guru's business is, to make sure that the philosophy, the Siddhanta, is understood clearly, and therefore, and only then, the disciple can pass it on, because at some point, some of those disciples will have to take those responsibility of carrying on the parampara. So he also wanted Vaishnav Das to answer this question. When Vaishnav Das heard the words of his Gurudev, he considered himself most fortunate and humbly said, I'm wretched and insignificant, and it is completely inappropriate for me to say anything in such a learned assembly. But he said, still, it is the order of my Guru. So this is the mood a disciple has. He feels himself unworthy, that I don't have the qualification to speak, and that too also in front of my own spiritual master. But at the same time, it is the order of my guru. I also have, when I become a disciple, then even if it's my life, I am ready to give, right? So if he's giving me some instruction, then I would take it up. So Shri Gurudev explains when Gurudev was Gurudev was in the mutt, and Pujapad Vaman Maharaj and Trivikram Maharaj, all three of them were considered the three pillars. They were the three prominent disciples of Shri Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj. And they were all three brahmacharis doing so many different services. So now Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj wanted to give them sannyas, the renounced order. So he called them and he said, I want to give you sannyas. But Vaman, all three of them, they said, no, we are not qualified. We will not take sannyas because we are not qualified. It's a great responsibility. So they refused. And so there was, I forget his name, Narsinganand, Narhari Prabhu, I think. He went to Gurudev and he said, you will not take sannyas? He said, no, I'm not qualified. And my elder god brothers, Vaman Maharaj and Trivikram Maharaj, I don't remember what their names were before sannyas, that they are not taking sannyas. So I don't want to take. They're even senior to me, more qualified than me, and they are not taking. And I'm not even as qualified as them. So Narhari Prabhu said, when you came to the mutt and you took initiation, you surrendered yourself, then is this body and life yours or your Gurudev's? So if he's telling you to take sannyas for a reason, then why are you refusing? That struck Gurudev. He said, yes, this is what surrender means. If Guru asks me to jump from the building, I will do it. Of course, Gurudev will not ask, but this is the mood of surrender, that whatever he's asking, and of course he's asking it only for the purpose of propagating the mission of the Lord. So then Gurudev agreed, and then Vaman Maharaj and Trivikram Maharaj also later on agreed, and they all took sannyas at the same time. So the point here is, he is saying that I will take the instruction, I will follow the order of my Gurudev. So here, now what he says, it's a very, very beautiful answer that Vaishnav Das ji gives. And I think it'll be the best if we read every line and understand it. Because trying to summarize it, we will miss some important points. So this answer, he so beautifully explains, and so many different questions will get answered in this response that Vaishnav Das gives. And this also shows that how a disciple who is fully surrendered is empowered by his spiritual master, empowered by the Lord to speak on their behalf. Yasya deve para bhakti yatha deve tatha guru tasya ev kathitha hi artha prakashante mahatmana. It says, Yasya deve para bhakti yatha deve tatha guru, that one who has that mood of complete surrender, mood of complete devotion towards the spiritual master as he has towards the Lord, tasya ev kathitha hi artha prakashante mahatmana, all the imports of Vedic knowledge are automatically revealed within his heart. So therefore, this knowledge is called revealed knowledge. Just by reading books, we cannot understand. It is revealed in our heart. And revelation means that the true essence of the Siddhanta is revealed within our heart by the mercy of Guru and Vaishnavas. So now he starts explaining, beautiful response. He first says that Manu Sanghita and other religious scriptures are respected throughout the world because they establish the codes and prohibitions that follow the line of thought of the Vedic Shruti Shastras. So the Vedas, the Puranas, the Upanishads, so the Shruti Shastras, he's saying that because the Manu Sanghita follows that line, therefore we also respect them. And then he explains that human nature has two tendencies in regard to religious pursuit. The first is called Vaidhi, to follow the rules and regulations of scripture. And the second is Raganuga, which means to follow the soul's spontaneous attraction towards Sri Krishna. As long as the intelligence is under the control of Maya, human nature must be regulated by rules and prohibitions. So he's saying, see, our tendency is of two types. One is where we are following rules and regulations. Why? Because we are in a conditioned stage. Our spontaneous love for the Lord has still not arisen. So we do not do worship out of spontaneity, out of spontaneous love. So therefore, we have to, because our intelligence is under the control of Maya. Our mind, our intelligence is still conditioned, is filled of so many unwanted desires, is filled of lust, anger, attachment, ego, so many different things, right? So many anarthas. So therefore, it does not perform spiritual activities out of spontaneity. It is, therefore, it has to be regulated. Just like a child in the beginning or generally does not go to school out of spontaneous attraction to go to the school. Some children go, but most do not. So there is a rule that you have to come to the school at 8:30 in the morning, right? You have to follow those rules and regulations. If you don't come, then you get a tardy. So when we are not accustomed to doing something out of spontaneity, then there are rules and regulations for us to do that. But what is the reason? Why do we need to have those rules and regulations? He will explain. He says, thus, in this condition, the Vaidhi nature will certainly be in effect. So he's saying in this, what Manu Samhita describes, all the rules and regulations, it is when we are in the conditioned stage. But when the intelligence is liberated from the bondage of Maya, however, human nature no longer needs to be governed by rules and prohibitions. Rather, it is prompted by spontaneous love. So, this is, as most of you have heard before, Vaidhi Bhakti and Raganuga Bhakti. So, the point is, what is driving our desire or our driving us to perform the religious or the spiritual activities? In Vaidhi Bhakti, it is more the fear of scriptures, more because we have, let's say, accepted initiation, these rules have to be followed, that's where we're doing it. In Raganuga, it is done out of spontaneous love. So just like, when someone goes to work, there you are doing all the activities because you have to do them. You have to get to the office at a certain time. You have to attend certain meetings. You have to attend trainings. You have to submit a report. Sometimes people just hate to do it, right? But you are required to do it. That is the rule if you need to get your salary. And the many times, those rules are there because otherwise people will not perform, right? So that's why so many checks and balances are there at the workplace. Now the same person comes home and he's not doing things for his children or his wife or the wife or the husband because it is part of some rules that they have to follow. It is not when you come home that there is a list, just like when at work there is an HR book, there is a code of conduct that certain things have to be done. If someone comes and touches you or you touch someone, then it is considered bad behavior, improper behavior, and there could be an HR case against you. Now you come home and child comes in your lap, or you embrace your wife, nobody is going to go and complain about it. Why? Because at home everything is being driven by spontaneous love that you have for your family members, and you make sacrifices, you do so many things simply out of love. So that's what he's explaining, that the when we get to that point of spontaneous love, then we are no longer dictated by the rules and regulations, because we love that person, you are ready to make any sacrifice or do anything for that person. So he says, but in this condition, the Vaidhi tendency no longer remains. So when we come to the point of spontaneous love, and the Raganuga uh, tendency becomes manifest. This Raganuga tendency is the unadulterated nature of the living entity. It is the perfected state of the self. So, which means Subhav Siddh. Subhav Siddh means this is our the the state of the living entity when he is in his complete perfection and transcendental and free from bondage to dull matter. So this is our original state, original transcendental state, when there is spontaneous love for the Lord. The pure spiritual jiva's relationship with the material world is completely terminated when Sri Krishna wills. So, if anyone has any questions, please feel free to put it in the chat, or you can unmute yourself and ask. And no problem. But we'll do the questions at the end as well. But feel free to ask any questions. So now he says something very important. He says that the pure spiritual jiva's relationship with the material world, when it is terminated, when does that time come that our material bondage is removed? He says it is terminated when Shri Krishna desires. So we just finished the month of Kartik, and all of you know this pastime of Krishna being bound by Mother Yashoda and the rope falling short by two fingers, right? So one finger represents our sadhan, our effort, our practice. But the practice alone is not enough. Sometimes we think that, oh, and there are certain yogis and gyanis, and they feel, oh, simply because by our process of meditation, we can achieve salvation, we can achieve liberation. But that is not true. And especially in the case of achieving love of Krishna, that is the second finger, which is the mercy of the Lord, his desire. Now, his desire or his mercy comes, it can be ahetuki, it doesn't has to be any reason, because he's supremely independent. He can be merciful to anyone and without a reason. But generally, when he sees that a sadhaka is trying, has real yearning in his or her heart, really wants to attain me, that's when Krishna's mercy also follows. So he's saying, but it is Krishna's will, only then the material world or our material bondage is terminated. Until that time, the practitioner, the sadhaka's relationship with the material world can only tend towards its eventual cessation. So when you start walking, you have to get to some place. You have to, let's say, go to the uh, president's house, right? There is a road leading to that house. You start walking towards it. You have not yet entered the house. To enter the house, that gate has to be opened upon the order of the king or the president. But when you start walking towards that towards the palace, so that process has started. So this is what is called kshay unmukh. So he says the eventual cessation of this bondage will happen by Krishna's will. When the president opens the door, eventually you will be able to get inside. But you simply having started walking on the road, the process has started. During that time, the jiva's intelligence attains freedom from matter to the extent. Now, this is something to understand. He says Swarupatah Jadmukti, but not to the extent of Vastutah Jadmukti. So Swarupatah means that we get understanding of, I am not this body, I am spirit soul, I am the servant of the Lord. One may also, by the mercy of Guru, understand one's spiritual form. One may get some knowledge of it, but you have still not attained it. But it is not to the extent of Vastutah Jadmukti. You don't actually become free from the bondage of the material world. So so again, the example, when you are walking towards the White House or the President's Palace, you are making progress, but you still have not got an entry inside it, right? So so just like you may get a visa, you apply for a visa to come to the US, right? So you get the visa, it is approved, it is stamped on your passport, but you still have not entered the United States. For that, you have to, you have to buy a ticket, you have to board the plane, you have to come here, and then you have to be cleared at the immigration to actually enter. So what he's saying is, Swarupata means you have now some eligibility, you have some knowledge, but you have not attained it. So he says that the stage when you attain it, which is Vastutah Janmukti, the Ragatmika Vritti, the mood of Ragatmika is awakened in the pure Jiva, both in terms of his internal identity and constitutional state. So see, he's describing the process of how, very briefly here, of course, in this answer, but then later on, this is described in more detail also. He says this is the time when Vastutah, when we finally become free from the bondage, Vastutah Jadmukti, then Ragatmika Vritti. What is Ragatmika Vritti? The mood of the Ragatmikas. So what is the difference between Raganuga and Ragatmika? So those who are eternal associates of the Lord, they are not sadhakas. So we are practitioners, but those like the maid servants of Srimati Radhika, the cowherd friends like Sridham Subal, like Nand Baba Yashoda, they are not sadhakas. So they are ragatmika, they are the ones who are made of, their rag means deep love, pure love, and atma means that they are made of this only, right? So they are not conditioned, they were never conditioned, and they are eternal associates of the Lord. So they are not in this category like the other living entities. So when that mood comes, the mood of them awakens in the pure living entity, both in terms of Surup, knowledge of our identity, and the constitutional state. So it says this Ragatmika Prakriti is the nature of the eternal residence of Vraja. So those who are eternal residents of the spiritual world, this is their nature. So Rupa Goswami, when describing what bhav is, he says in Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu that Shuddha Sattva Vishesh Atma Prem Suryanshu Samya Bhak. So he says that, and this will be explained actually in the third part of Jaiva Dharma. So this is where some indications are being given. So he says Shuddha Sattva Vishesh Atma. Shuddha Sattva means state of transcendental purity. So there is mode of ignorance, passion, and mode of goodness, which are still within the material world. When one completely arises above all of them, these are still binding. But in the spiritual world, it is the state of pure goodness, Shuddha Sattva, where there is absolutely no tinge of anything material. No anarthas, nothing. It's absolutely pure, pristine. So Shuddha Sattva, Visheshatma. Visheshatma, these are the Ragatmika devotees of the Lord. They are not ordinary personalities. So Prem Suryanshu, so the love that is in their heart for the Supreme Lord, that is compared to Prema Surya, the sun, that sun of pure love from Krishna. When Ansh means one drop or one atom of that, when it enters into the heart of the sadhaka, ruchibhi chit matsrinya, when that enters the heart of the sadhaka, then that heart of the sadhaka melts. That's when bhav, or the emotion, really starts manifesting in the heart of the devotee. So this is what he's saying here, that it is only, this is the nature, the love for the Lord. This is the nature of the residence of Vraja. And when the sadhaka jiva in this Kshay Unmukh stage again, is that stage when you are actually walking on the road. You are towards the goal, which is, let's say, in this case, we took the example of going to the palace. So when you are making that progress, in that stage, he says, he becomes a Raganuga by following the service of Brajbasi. So during that process, during that stage, we become Raganuga. So means we are following the Ragatmika Bhaktas who have Rag in their heart, pure love in their heart. He then receives many different spiritual graces and progresses very quickly. This condition of Raganuga should be ardently sought after by the Jivas. He says this should be the goal of our life, not just getting stuck in rules and regulations and not developing any real love for the Lord, just like the residents of Vrindavan. This is what we should strive for. But he says, until we come to this point, the jiva's intelligence is always attached to the material world. So this is, our condition, because at this point, our heart is not so much attached to the Lord. We don't have that spontaneous love for Him. So in general, our mind is thinking about material things. Because the conditioned jiva is in contact with Maya, his inherent nature changes. In this bewildered condition, he has no pure natural attachment for spiritual objects, and due to his falsely acquired nature, he mistakenly thinks that his attachment for mundane objects is his natural spiritual attachment. So this is, again, he's explaining what is Nitya Dharma and Naimittik Dharma. Because of the influence of Maya, our true nature transforms, and then we start thinking this transformed nature is only our true nature. Right? That is conditioned life. The conceptions of I and mind, means aham, mameti, are two types of egoism whose influence is very prominent in the mundane sphere, and which lead one to think I am this body and all things related to this body are mine. So we all know about this aham, mameti, that I am this body and everything that is related to this body is mine. Now he says something very nice. He says, due to these conceptions of I and mine, one naturally feels attracted to people and things that bring pleasure to the material body, because we think we are material body, and one feels averse to people and things that impede material pleasure. And this is how the entire world is conditioned like this. Everyone, right, except for, we'll say, some really advanced devotees, we are at different levels in this conception of I and mine. So anyone that who gives pleasure to me and things that are attached to me, he is my friend. And anyone who, in any way, form or fashion harms me or things that are attached to me or does not give me pleasure, he is my enemy. When the bewildered jiva falls under the sway of such attachment and aversion, he considers others to be friends or enemies and displays love or hatred for them in three ways. So he says, one, in relation to the material body and its acquisition. So that's what we just discussed. Someone who, against my body or things that I possess, if someone, gives in any form or fashion tries to hurt them, then he's my enemy. But someone who helps that, right, brings you nice gifts, does things for you that give you happiness, then that is your friend. Or in relation to society and social ideas. So we identify with our body, then we identify with our society as well as our ideas. Right, here in the US, we have Democrats and Republicans. You go to India, there's so many political parties, there's so many other groups. Each one has certain set of ideas. So someone who is aligned with those ideas is my friend. Who's not aligned with those ideas, we consider that person our enemy. And in relation to morality and ethics, same thing. There also, we subscribe to certain ethics. Now these ethics or moral principles are not nitya dharma, but we have our set of moral principles and ethics, and someone who does not subscribe to them, we don't think of that person as a friend. So thus he engages in the struggle for material existence. He says this is the reason of all our problems, all our fights, and the cause of our conditioning and continued struggle in the material existence. The false attachment for Kanak means gold and things that are money can buy, and Kamini, anyone who satisfies our lusty desires, brings one under the control of temporary happiness and distress. This is known as sansar, a state in which one wanders throughout the material universe, gaining only birth, death, and fruits of karma, and various conditions of life, some high and some low. So this is sansar. Sansar means samyak sarati iti. So in Sanskrit, this is made of two words, sam and sar, sarati. So samyak sarati iti. So something that is constantly changing, constantly we are going from one state to another. There are things around that are constantly changing. There's constant transmigration, wandering from one material body to another. This is called sansar. Sometimes we are in a high position, sometimes in a low position, sometimes happy, sometimes unhappy. So there's a constant change. The jiva who is bound in this way cannot easily comprehend spiritual attachment, nor can he realize or experience such a thing. So he's saying someone who's wandering like this in such a conditioned stage, how can that person possibly develop any spontaneous love? So, in reality, the spiritual attachment, even though it is a true function and his eternal nature, it is very difficult for a person to develop it. However, he forgets this, the true nature, and becomes engrossed in attachment of matter, although he's actually a particle of consciousness. Thus, he suffers degradation. This is a miserable condition. Although hardly any of the jivas who are thus entangled in sansar think so. So he says something very nice. He says, we are actually in a very miserable condition. But the problem is that most of us don't think that we are in a miserable condition. So once Indra was having a very great time in his heavenly planet. Here there was lot many apsaras, so they were having a party, lot of drinks, lot of music, lot of enjoyment. And that time his guru Brihaspati came. Indra saw him coming from a distance, and seeing the guru, his guru Brihaspati, he thought in his mind, oh, this is such a bad time for him to come. In Hindi we say rang mein bhang. So you are having a colorful time, and now someone comes, someone like a respectful personality. Just imagine you are having a party at home and devotees show up at your door. And then, we'll say, oh, wow, now we'll have to take care of them, and what will happen to our party? So Indra just ignored. He just turned his face towards the other side, because he did not want to go and offer respects to his Gurudev and then stop his partying. So Brihaspati ji, he understood, and he cursed him that you are not fit for this heaven, that you are such lowly mentality, that go and take birth in the form of a hog, like a hog who lives in a dirty place. So he became a hog, and he was living in this places, well, eating garbage, living in sewer, with lot of she the female hogs, and with lot of kids, and thinking, oh, he's having such a nice life. One day Brahmaji came by, and he said, oh Indra, you are Indra, what are you doing here? And he said, who are you? He looked at Brahmaji and he said, who are you? He said, I am Brahma and you are Indra. You are in such a miserable condition. He said, no, I'm not in a miserable condition. I'm having a very good time. I have so many nice wives. I can enjoy with them anytime. I have so many children. I'm getting all this delicious stuff to eat. He was calling all the garbage and all the stool in the sewer as delicious stuff. That's what they eat. So this is the nature of now, in fact, those who are in the higher planets, when they look at our condition, they say, oh, we are in such a pitiable situation. We don't understand it. And that's what he's saying. Even though we are in a miserable condition, hardly any of the jivas, they think that they are entangled in the sansar. So the jivas bound by Maya are wholly unacquainted with the Ragunaga nature, to say nothing of the Ragatmika nature. So we see in the world, right, how many people even know about bhakti, about, and that too also about pure bhakti. How many know about Raganuga bhakti? Very, very rare, right? So he says the Raganuga nature may be awakened in the hearts of the Jiva, but only occasionally by the mercy of sadhus. Very important, he's saying, Brahmand Brahmite Kono Bhagyavan Jeev, Guru Krishna Prasade Pai Bhakti Lata Bhij. That he says, wandering in so many universes from time immemorial. Brahmande Brahmite Kono Bhagyavan Jeev. That's some very, very rare, fortunate soul. Guru Krishna Prasade Pai Bhakti Lata Beach. By the causeless mercy of Guru and Krishna gets the seed of bhakti in their heart. So, we are of course all not very qualified, but it is a causeless mercy of our Guru Varga, and we must have done some sukriti. There may have been some desire in our previous lives that we came to this line. And now, whatever anyone else may say, right? Today also I was listening to a lecture of Gurudev that he gave at the end of Kartik. At the conclusion of Kartik, he will always, give a summary of how the parikrama went, and he will give final instructions as devotees left for their homes to go back. And he said, he was explaining about the mood of Raganuga Bhakti and the mood of Radha Dasyam. And he said, people may say what they have to say, right? Because people are going to say something or the other, right? So they may say what they have to say, but we are not going to give it up. We are not going to give up what Mahaprabhu has given us, Unnat Ujjwala Ras, what he has given, because this is so rare. Once in the day of Brahma, once in billions of years, one gets this mood. So it is very, very rare. So Gurudev was saying, stay focused, stay fixed, stay determined, no matter what anyone says, because this is not something that we are doing whimsically or out of materials of any speculative ideas. This is given by Krishna, given by Mahaprabhu himself. So he said, consequently, this Raganuga nature is rare and difficult to obtain, because only very rarely someone gets it. And those who are entangled in sansar are cheated of it by Maya. So he says, then what is the possibility? If so very few people are going to get it, so he says, because the Lord is very merciful, he saw that the jivas who are bound by Maya have been cheated of their spiritual inclination. And how will they attain that good fortune? By what means can remembrance of Krishna be aroused in the hearts of those who are captured by Maya, who are in the throngs of Maya? They will only be able to understand that they are servants of Krishna if they associate with the sadhu. But then there is no specific rule that one must associate with sadhu, right? So as we are all growing up, we go to schools, we go to the universities, but no place it is taught to us that we should associate with sadhus. And then there is such a dearth of real sadhus. So where is the hope that everyone may easily attain sadhu sangha? So he's saying, now the Lord is thinking, how will these people then finally come out of this dungeon of material existence? Consequently, there can be no auspiciousness for people in general without the path of rules and regulations. Therefore, because only some rare people will get into the association of sadhus and understand the path of Raganuga Bhakti, so therefore, generally, it is required or explained like in Manu Smriti that one should follow rules and regulations. So therefore these scriptures were manifested from the merciful consideration of Sri Bhagwan, issuing forth by his mercy. The sun of the Shastras arose in the sky of the hearts of the ancient Aryan rishis and illuminated all the injunctions and rules to be followed by the populace. So it says this is why this knowledge, this was inspired in the heart of great saints, the Maharshis, who then, upon the order of the Lord, wrote these books in which they gave many, many rules and regulations. So, and there are described many rules and regulations in the Vedic scriptures, and that how we should conduct our life. He will explain some of that, in his response, in his answer here. So many rules and regulations are described. Of course, today, nowadays, we see hardly anyone knows of those rules, or hardly anyone follows those rules even. And that's the reason we are seeing that we are going down, the society as a whole is going down a very wrong path, because these rules and regulations, they describe boundaries, they define boundaries, some guardrails for human life. Because without these guardrails, without these rules and regulations, our propensity is to do sinful acts. Our propensity is to do wrong things, because we have not developed spontaneous love. And if these rules and regulations are not there, then we will fall further down into material existence. That's the reason these rules and regulations are defined. So we will stop here. We will continue this in the next class. And again, very beautifully, he's explaining. And as I said, just going through the response to this one question and response of given by Vaishnav Das ji, we will actually understand some very important aspects of of bhakti. Hare Krishna, Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. So, if anyone has any questions, please feel free. We can um, discuss them now. Or if you have any questions later on also, just like some of you sent the questions afterwards, that's perfectly fine. But again, my request always is, do take some time. We just covered about 3.5 pages today, based on which edition of English Jaiva Dharma you have. So just read it, and if something is not clear, please do let me know. Okay.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you very much.
Okay. Well, thanks everyone. Thank you once again, everyone, for joining. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.